Winning cures everything. Now for your hosts, Gary and Chris.
Welcome in, Winning Cures Everything. It is the Monday, January 3rd, 2022 edition of the show. I'm Gary.
And I'm Chris.
And we have got Chris live and alive.
That's the biggest part.
You better believe that. I am so glad that you are back to feeling not quite 100%, but at least back to being capable of being on the show. How's that? That's much better. So, lots to discuss. Of course, we are not going to recap every single bowl game. That would just be ridiculous. There were a lot of fun bowl games. Chris, before we kick things off, everybody that wanted to just dance on the grave of the SEC when they were 1-5 in bowl season, nobody ever the idea of thinking that a conference is better or worse because of a record in bowl season, especially these days, is the most asinine thing I can possibly think of. The opt-outs, the circumstances surrounding these games, the opt-outs, especially this year with the kids that were out due to COVID and whatever else, you can't get a gauge on any of this stuff this year. Like, there's no way to tell who's actually better. So give me your thoughts, because I know you and I both went at some people on Twitter that were just, the Big Ten, what was it, 4-0, 5-0, and SEC 1-5, and then we see how it ends. And that's not to say that Arkansas was necessarily better than Penn State throughout the year. I think they probably were, but how could we possibly know based on the game that happened on New Year's Day?
Listen, this is insane. This is all insanity. 13. 13 is the magic number that we need to talk about. There are most of these conferences out there don't have 13 teams in them. And the SEC got 13 eligible bowl teams. Okay. Yeah. And then I don't want to hear the bullshit of, where you only play an 8-game conference schedule, and everybody else plays 9. First off, Pac-12, Big 12, and the ACC, you all need to shut the hell up and just be appreciative that we allow you to be considered in a quote unquote Power 5. Okay. Because you don't belong in that conversation. The difference between the SEC and the Big Ten and the other 3 is a chasm so big. I mean, it's a 9-lane highway going down the road.
It is.
I mean, you can't cross that. You just can't.
You're 100% right.
I just don't want to hear we played 9 games. Okay, so let's do some math real quick. Let's say, for instance, first off, 5 of the SEC teams were 6-6. So if they were to play a 9th conference game, we assume some of them would have been against one another, right? So that means half of them. But here's the thing. 4 out of those 5 teams that were 6-0. Sorry, I apologize. 3 out of those 5 teams didn't play Vanderbilt.
True.
So we assume one of them is going to play Vanderbilt and win. All right. So I'm going to give you one of the 5. I'm pulling them out. Let's say the other 2 split. I'm going to give you 50-50 on that. Okay. But now we're trying to play God. We're trying to play. You would have taken out a pay for win and replaced it with that. No, LSU probably wouldn't have played UCLA, and then they would have played one of these other teams. So I think at the end of the day, that's a game we lost anyway. Like South Carolina wouldn't have played Clemson, so maybe they play another SEC team. Well, okay, all right, a game they lost, they would have still lost. So it doesn't affect. There's a world where all 13 make it to begin with, no matter how you change this. But even if 13 teams made a bowl game, I don't know how you argue with that.
You don't.
One team didn't.
Yeah. No, you're 100% right. Vanderbilt is the only team in the SEC that did not make a bowl game. And it wasn't all because of non-conference. Mississippi State lost to Memphis in the non-conference.
Yes.
I mean, what are we?
I think almost all of the 5, 6, and 6 teams, I think, did lose non-con games. Auburn lost to Penn State. We lost to UCLA.
Mississippi State was 7-5.
You just brought up Mississippi State.
Yeah.
And You brought up the Mississippi State thing. They were 7-5. I'm trying to think of the 6-6. I don't know who Missouri lost to.
Yeah, Missouri lost to Boston College.
Okay,
yeah.
and then South Carolina lost to Clemson. So they all lost a non-con game. It's not like that would have changed anything.
100%. 100%.
So it's just the stupidest argument. Anyway, it all worked itself out. And to say that we're not top-heavy, every conference is top-heavy.
And the SEC
Jesus.
just happens to be more so. But that's partly because, look, you got the two teams that are playing for the national title.
But that's only those two teams are better than everybody else.
Right.
They're not the gap between those two teams and the rest of the SEC isn't any bigger than the gap between Baylor and Oklahoma and everybody else. Agreed. In the Big 12. Like, the gap is the same. Those two teams are just that much higher. But so are our middle and bottom tier are that much higher. Now, our bottom tier is probably just as bad as everybody else. Vanderbilt's as bad as any team that plays football at all.
Well, everybody talked about South Carolina being awful, and you saw what they did to North Carolina. I mean,
that's right.
Who knows what to expect? And again,
and that's with a first-round draft pick playing on the other side of that field, by the way.
You got that right. You got that right. Now, I don't know how many first-round draft picks are on that North Carolina offensive line. I will certainly tell you that.
But that's irrelevant. How many players are on South Carolina at all? How many draft picks, period, are on South Carolina?
Well, there were several that actually opted out, right? I mean, they were down to
played in the game.
Oh, who knows? Probably not that many.
Maybe,
but they do have some athletes. I mean, they got some guys that'll play in the league. I just don't know how many. I don't think there's a lot of first-round guys. But South Carolina, I mean, 100%, right? And we're not going to talk about them and not that game, but it's the same thing every year. Like, we see where the majority of the talent is located. And to have this argument over and over and over again is just ridiculous.
Well, then one guy wanted to come at me. He was like, well, all of y'all bowl games are played in your backyard. I'm like, I'm sorry that 90% of the games are played like south of the Mason-Dixon line and east of Texas. Like, I can't, or I guess, Texas eastward.
None of it has, it's not a home field advantage for any of those
teams.
To
do with any of that.
No.
Anything to do with any of it. That's so stupid. I can't help it that the Big Ten chooses to go play in L.A. every year. I'm so sick of the Rose Bowl. The Rose Bowl was a fantastic bowl game, by the way.
It really
We're going to talk about it.
Yeah.
Unbelievable bowl game. I'm so sick of the granddaddy of them all thing. I've told you this for a decade. No team, no bowl game that gets to have the Pac-12 in it, which has historically been fifth out of the Power Five. The ACC and the Big 12 have been considerably better than them recently. Like, you just don't get to call yourself the granddaddy of them all.
So I've heard multiple people talk about this. Andy Staples most recently. How would you feel if the Rose Bowl was the national championship game every year?
I don't want to. And here's the only reason why. This is a bad move on my part. Okay, you never want to make a decision because of spite or anger. But I don't want to reward the sons of bitches that put that thing on at all. They are the most corrupt, pompous pieces of shit. Also, Los Angeles is not the town that it used to be. Los Angeles is absolutely not the place that you want everyone going to celebrate your sport. That's just not it. I'm going to tell you, if you were going to pick, and you can call me biased, you can call me a homer, all you want. If you wanted to celebrate your sport, the sport of college football, if you told me that you wanted to put it in Miami or New Orleans every year and never move it from those two locations, I would be fine with that.
I could get down with that. Or maybe even Texas. Like,
No. It needs to be in a party city. It needs to be in the only reason New Orleans gets it is because there's no party like New Orleans.
You're right about that.
All right, I'm curious. And South Beach rivals it, and South Beach has the beach.
You're right. You're right.
I'm not giving you Atlanta, and I'm not giving you Dallas. All right, those are beautiful stadiums. They're unbelievable places. But if you told me we're picking one place to put it forever, and we're not moving it, we're not playing this game anymore, New Orleans or Miami. That's your two options. And the reason Los Angeles loses it is because that's not the destination it used to be.
No, you're not wrong about that. I am curious to see how things go in Indianapolis next week.
I'm sure it's going to go great.
Because it's a great town for that.
Indy's a great town. It's a great football town. The Midwest is unbelievable. And it's an awesome stadium. So it's going to go amazing. Like there are going to be no problems with it whatsoever. Like, that's not a bad answer. I'm not saying you should give it a permanent destination. I'm saying, because that pretty sunset, let me tell you something, 6 seconds after that sunset and it's just dark, that is now a shithole. Okay.
Yeah.
But like, if you want to do it, you need to make the sunset at the end of the damn game where you're giving out the trophy. You start the thing at noon.
Yeah.
Because once the sun goes down, you're in a toilet.
I don't know if I would call Pasadena a toilet, but all
right, Pasadena's not, but
where your hotels and whatnot would
getting
be
there, staying there, downtown LA, go enjoy yourself. Tell me how it goes. See what happens.
Oh man, we have got some games to discuss. Let's go ahead and dive into the first one. We're going to start off with the college football playoff, and the first game was the Cotton Bowl. Alabama 27, Cincinnati 6. Post-game win expectancy, Alabama 100%. You could tell on the opening drive. They ran it 10 times right down the field, and then Bryce Young threw a little 8-yard pass for a touchdown, and you could almost tell right then, I don't know that Cincinnati's got enough juice to hang in this ballgame.
Maybe not at that point. Where the game flipped was Alabama calling the timeout on defense.
Oh, 100%.
Cincinnati,
that's what I was about to say.
Got the ball and did the exact same thing Alabama did.
Well, after that timeout, they did not run the ball again.
They went right down the field. They got up to like the 8-yard line, and Nick calls a timeout on defense. And I thought, whoa, Nick is worried. Nick sees something that bothers him. And I think he was. And I think he got it corrected. It's what good coaches do. And after that, and they couldn't punch it in, and they had to settle for 3. That's when I realized, it's ball game, because that offense never got back clicking again. I think if they don't call a timeout, Cincinnati scores a touchdown. This very much has the feeling of we're going tit for tat.
Oh, and Georgia, Michigan was really kind of the same thing. And we'll talk about that one here in a minute. We'll stay on topic with this. I really thought they would try and run Desmond Ridder more in this ballgame. Cincinnati, 10 rushes for -6 yards. Cincinnati's offensive line just could not block Alabama's front seven at all. Like, there was no prayer. Jerome Ford still 15 carries, 77 yards. Like, he was able to get some yardage. His rushing total was 70.5, and it went over. Kind of didn't expect that, but also there really wasn't a lot that they could do for the entire ballgame. Cincinnati had 218 total yards, 144 of that passing, 74 of that rushing. You look at it wasn't anything off of turnovers, anything like that. Alabama was the more physically dominant team, and once Bill O'Brien and Nick Saban realized, we can dial up anything that we want at any point, they kind of just stuffed everything back in the bag. The thing to look out for, Jamison Williams went out with an injury for just a little bit from a kick return where he just got leveled, absolutely leveled. And they've got an offensive lineman. Emil Ekiyor we don't know what's going to happen with him. And then Chris Owens, another offensive lineman. If those two guys are out against Georgia, this will be a completely different ball game than what we saw in the SEC championship game. But there's been no word on those two as of yet. But to stay on this one, Brian Robinson, 26 carries, 204 yards rushing. Trey Sanders, 14 carries for 67 yards. Alabama had 301 yards rushing on 47 attempts. They hadn't done that all year. Against anybody. So
yeah, but this is where the difference between, and I'm not going to talk about G5, Power 5. This is the difference between SEC caliber athletes and non. Alabama couldn't physically do that against, and I'm not talking about great teams, I'm talking about mediocre teams. Florida, they couldn't do it against LSU. They couldn't do it against Auburn because our defensive front, you just can't push around like that.
Right.
And while Cincinnati was a substantially better team than the 3 teams that I just named from top to bottom all year, just the physical makeup of a man, just size and the ability to stand your ground and not get pushed around like that is just, it's just different. It's not an amount of work. That's not an amount of skill. At some point in time, I'm just bigger and I have a strong enough base to where you're just not going to push me like that. And it's all about size. And that was the difference is the guys on Cincinnati just They're just not built the same. Until you're recruiting those level players in the trench, you're going to be able to just push people around. There's a reason Alabama wasn't able to do it all year. They couldn't do it against Mississippi State. They couldn't do it against Ole Miss. I'm not even talking about the three big boys that I named off that are just known historically for having great defensive lines, even when the rest of the team's not good. The teams that are not historically known for having good defensive lines, Alabama couldn't do it against in the SEC.
Because they've all got talent on the defensive line, and they're all at least
got that kind of size.
Yeah, they're adequately sized
year in and year out.
Yes, they are all adequately sized, and Cincinnati is not. Now, of course, this brings up the age-old question. You put Cincinnati like the peak G5, which, again, we don't like to talk about the difference here, but you put Cincinnati in the SEC this season. I don't think that they're going undefeated.
No, they're not going undefeated, and it would be ridiculous to think they are, but I don't think they're bad either. I mean, I still think they're better than, 80% of the SEC.
Oh, yeah.
Because not everybody else has it. No one else has, like, LSU's offensive line's not good enough to do what Alabama did to them. Like we don't have the dudes that you have and you had. Georgia could do it, and Alabama could have done it, but I don't know that anybody else was doing it.
Oh, no, I don't think you're wrong there. I don't think you're wrong. So looking at this game, this was at least a competitive game for a while. For a
little bit, yeah.
Cincinnati did enough things to make Alabama uncomfortable. I'll tell you this, the Tide, they could not figure out pass pro in this ball game against those undersized guys, which is hilarious to think about, the fact that they could run all day long on them because all you have to do is go forward. But when you have to pass pro, Cincy ran some different things that they were able to get into the backfield, and Bryce Young wasn't exactly great.
Cincinnati's got two elite DBs that are going to play on Sundays. That's helps a whole lot. I was shocked, and I thought they played a little conservative. I think the announcers talked about this once or twice. Maybe I was thinking it and saying it to somebody else, but I was shocked that Cincinnati was playing so conservative by not bringing the safety up. At some point in time, you're so afraid of the speed of Alabama. You got to trust your NFL. You've got two NFL DBs. You got to trust those guys to be NFL DBs and to lock those dudes down. And you got to bring somebody else in the box. Yeah. When they were running a 7-man box and Alabama's just running it down your throat, your only way of stopping that is to bring the 8th man down. You just have to. And they never did the whole game. They just said, we'll let you bludgeon us to death, but you're not going to bomb us.
Yeah, it was really strange, the way that Cincinnati went at this game. But I will tell you, I believe it was the Yahoo Sports podcast that said that is a coach's worst nightmare, is when you line up and you see the first two drives and you figure out, oh, shit, Nick Saban has figured us out already. Like, we are 5-10 minutes into this ball game, and we got no prayer at this point. Like, and that's what happened with Fickell. One, on the defensive side, and then two, on offense, when they called that timeout and Alabama ran out different formations down there at the goal line.
It totally changed it up.
Totally changed the game. Back. So, and from there, it was, there were some things that Cincy did to at least make it competitive. But I do still kind of feel Alabama almost could have named their score in this. This was more, let's try not to get anybody hurt.
I don't know about name your score, because they weren't able to score fast. They were just able to score every drive.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
They couldn't just score anytime they wanted, though. They couldn't just drop back and throw a bomb.
No, you're definitely
all that.
Yeah, you're definitely not wrong about that. Jameson Williams going out.
8 minutes to score on us. You're going to score, but you're going to eat a lot of clock, and you're just going to take a long time.
Yeah.
So I was surprised. Let me tell you what I was surprised about. Let me tell you a positive on Cincinnati. Okay. Alabama's bigger, stronger, faster. They've got there's not a single position on offense that Cincinnati has an advantage talent-wise that's not on defense, other than maybe the two DBs. Okay. At no point in time did Cincinnati's defense and Alabama own the field all day long with these long, sustainable drives. At no time did Cincinnati just break. I thought when the fourth quarter hit Alabama was going to run away with the game. And I'm not talking about they beat them pretty physically and they beat them badly. I'm talking 30, 40 points. That's when the game's going to get ugly because now the defense is just gassed. Like they've got nothing left. They've been on the field all day. We're in the fourth quarter. They're still fighting. They're still getting stops. They're still making Alabama work. They're still making you take 6 yards of play, 4 yards of play, 3 yards of play. And at no point in time did they just give up and the bow break. Last night in the Baylor Ole Miss game that we watched, I told 4 people, different people that I was texting with in different groups, and I said, "Don't worry, I don't know what this game's going to look like through quarter 1 through 3, but by quarter 4 it's over." By quarter 4, it's over. They're like, how can you say? Because Baylor's offense is eventually going to break one because Ole Miss doesn't have the talent to keep taking these gut shots over and over and over and over and over again and sustaining it.
Yeah.
They just don't. That defense isn't made the same. And that's not a knock on them. It's just a talent they've got on the field. Cincinnati never broke.
Yeah, it was very impressive.
Thought that was impressive.
So scoring opportunities, Alabama had 6 drives inside of the Cincy 40. They scored 20 points. That's 3.33 per drive. Cincy had 4 scoring opportunities. That's 4 different drives that got inside the 40. They were only able to muster 2 field goals. That's 1.5 points per opportunity. That is not good. Definitely not good. And then, of course, Alabama did have the 44-yard touchdown pass to Ja'Cory Brooks, the one that they were finally able to get a deep pass going on. And really, that touchdown pass before the half was all she wrote. I mean, it was 10-3.
Well, I was about to say,
first half.
It was ball game before that. Yeah.
So at that point, when it got to 17-3 at the half, it was okay. This is kind of what everybody expected, but was hoping maybe we wouldn't see, and that's exactly what we got. So let's move on. The Orange Bowl. Georgia 34, Michigan 11, and this one, good gracious, the numbers on this. Georgia had 518 total yards, 328 of that was passing. So for everybody that wanted to talk about Stetson Bennett and whatnot, he showed out in this game. 21 out of 31, 310 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, 0 picks. He also ran 3 times, or scrambled, whatever you want to call it, for 32 yards. This was not a Georgia, running the football down their throat, anything like that. This was Georgia's defense shut down Michigan, and Michigan had no idea what to expect from Georgia's offense. It was just as clear as day. You look at the drives, Georgia goes right down the field and scores a touchdown. And then Michigan went right down the field, and then they don't get that, they turn the ball over on downs. That changed the game. If they score right there, I think it's a completely different ball game. Now, that's not to say, it's not to say Georgia wouldn't have won,
right?
But it just changes the perception of the entire thing.
It was the exact same way the Alabama-Cincinnati game was.
Yes.
I thought, man, we're about to get exactly what we almost got there. Michigan couldn't get it in. And then I thought, well, that's it. And I literally, I told everybody, I told you guys, I told everybody, I said, listen, I got 2 more drives in me. Okay. I'm going to watch Georgia do what they just did, drive and score. And if Michigan doesn't drive and get a touchdown, I'm out. I'm out. I'm not wasting the rest of this night watching this damn game. Because of some bullshit. And exactly what happened happened.
Yes. In the second quarter, Georgia scored on their first 5 possessions. Touchdown, field goal, touchdown. So, I mean, it was 27
in Michigan's first
3.
5 possessions, they had a field goal.
Yes, a field goal, a turnover on downs, and they did have 2 interceptions, a fumble, and 2 other turnovers on downs. And then finally, their last possession, they scored a touchdown. So it was not as close as 34-11. It was a beating. Georgia figured out very quickly. Kirby, I think, started coaching for the Alabama game midway second quarter, I guess, somewhere around there. Or maybe at about halftime. So did you hear his comment after the game about Alabama got a 4-hour or 6-hour head start on us or whatever?
Yeah, I need to get a shower and get to work. Alabama got a 5-hour head start.
Just ridiculous. I love it, though. The storylines that will come out of this national championship game. One, I do think, well, we'll hit on that here in a minute. The post-game win expectancy for Georgia was actually 98%, which how Alabama's was 100% and Georgia's was 98%. I have no idea because I feel like Georgia mashed Michigan a little more than Alabama did Cincy.
Yep.
But when you look at all the missed opportunities for Michigan, they were able to get some drives going, and they did have so beginning of the third quarter, 11-play, 56-yard drive that ends in an interception, which Nakobe Dean, by the way, linebacker for Georgia, absolute freak of nature again. Now, he didn't show out in the Alabama game nearly as much, but against Michigan, he did what he has done all year. This kid is absolutely ridiculous.
You know where he's from?
Horn Lake, Mississippi.
Right down the road, baby.
Right down the
That's
street.
right.
You better believe it.
He is absolutely local kid. So
yes. So turnover on downs for Michigan. They had a 7-play, 34-yard drive that turned over on downs. They had a 11-play, 56-yard drive that ended in an interception. They had a 7-play, 31-yard drive that was a turnover on downs in the fourth quarter. Another drive in the fourth quarter, 15 plays, 69 yards, turnover on downs. There were missed opportunities for Michigan for them to at least keep this a little bit closer. But when you start out the way that they did, at 27-3, what are you even going to do? It was so ugly so quickly that I do think there were a lot of people that were happy that they could just go out and celebrate New Year's and not have to worry about this going down to the wire.
No, yeah, this game, like I told you, I watched 4 drives. And then I kept checking back in, kept popping in, and nothing was different.
Yeah.
I said, okay.
It was putrid.
Not wasting my time.
I really focused until about midway through the second quarter. And at that point, it was, okay, what am I doing here? I started working on IKEA shelves and all this other mess.
So let me talk about, we could have fixed this. You know that, right? We could have avoided this. And maybe you could tell me your opinion on this. Okay?
Okay.
All the committee had to do to guarantee us 2 great games was punish Georgia for not winning their championship game and make them 4th and say, we're going to get a rematch. I know we just watched this game, but we're going to get a rematch. And if we would have gotten Cincinnati, Michigan, and Alabama, Georgia on New Year's Eve night, I think we get the same national champion we're going to get when the game is over Monday. Okay. But B, we just right now, we're destroying college football. We're tearing everything up and everybody's up in arms. And some people are saying we have to expand it because this is stupid, because look how bad these games are. And then the other half is saying we don't need to expand it. We need to get rid of the playoff completely because there's no more than just 2 teams that matter. But if we would have made Georgia, Alabama rematch and say, Georgia, you didn't win your conference, you're going to be 4th. And we let the other 2 play. I think we'd have got 2 outstanding football games. Second, we would have gotten a storyline in the national championship that would have been unbelievable no matter what. You get at least guaranteed get 1 fresh team in. Okay. And that fresh team is either the little engine that could, all right, or a historical blue blood that is on an unbelievable run and has a massive, massive national fan base. So either way, you're going to get the same champion you would have gotten no matter what. Would Monday night, next Monday, be a better game than this? Probably not. But nobody's going to know that until the halfway point of the game. So you're still going to get a first half. It's a pretty decent football game probably. And then we're going to get a different outcome. Why would you not do that? Why are you destroying your sport just because you don't want a rematch early? But you're okay with the rematch late? That's it. You know 100% definitive that was it. They didn't want to see Alabama and Georgia rematch, and this way we possibly don't. But everybody in the world says, no, now you're going to get the rematch, and it's going to be for the title.
I think that the idea of the playoff is to get the 4 best teams in, and whoever makes it goes, right?
So the 4 best teams would still be in. I
understand, but what I'm saying is, why would you guarantee either Michigan or Cincinnati a national championship appearance, and force a rematch right there. Like if Alabama and Georgia get there, then they earned it, right? Like these have been the two best teams in the country.
You could absolutely forget what we saw Saturday. You could absolutely justify the fact, or Friday, whatever the hell night New Year's Eve was. You could absolutely say Georgia didn't deserve or earn the 3 spot. You could say that. You could justifiably make that argument.
Yeah, but can you? Yeah,
Why could you not?
I see where you're coming from.
The other team is undefeated. The other team didn't trail most of the season. Like, they won their conference. They won all of their games. You could have made that argument pretty easily, and you would have gotten 2 much better football games. I don't need hindsight to see that. What do you think the point spread would have been if it was Cincinnati, Michigan before the season started? Or not before the season started, but before the playoffs happened Friday night?
I think Michigan probably would have been favored around 6.
Okay.
6.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, what's point? No, I don't think it would have been that much. I think it would have been more than a field goal, less than a touchdown, but I think we're talking 4 or 5. But we're splitting hairs now. Now we're picking. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, and we know what we're getting with Alabama, Georgia. That's it. We're going to get a 2 or 3 point line before the first point, but it probably would have been Bama favored because Bama just beat the hell out of them. But that's fine. That's fine. Like, you would have gotten 2 much better games, and your national championship storyline is so much better. The sport overall is at 100% healthier place. If you just say, you 2 boys just played for the SEC title game, we're not having an all SEC championship. Mix it up, play it again, and if one of you win it all, you win it all. But you got to go through them twice.
I will say this. I don't disagree with your premise, but I do disagree with forcing them for the sole reason of getting a different team in the national title game. Like, the national title, you have to earn.
No, there's multiple reasons why. A, you say it all the time. Everyone else says it's a television show. Well, if it's a damn television show, give us a television show worth watching.
I agree with that.
The end of the Alabama game was because the next one was coming up. Other than that, I didn't give a shit about it either.
What was it? It was there's 16 semifinal games, and what was it? 11 or 12 of them have been like 17 points or more, I believe is right. Yes. And y'all can double check the numbers.
But it would have just made for much better ATV. It would have been healthier for the sport. And I think it would have been healthier for the sport to not have one conference in the championship. Like if you get to a 12-team playoff and you just get 2 teams from the same conference, like, we didn't manipulate that. Like, you can't. But now there's 4. There's 4, and unless we ever allow 3 teams from one conference to get in, I would just basically say, look, we're just going to put the 2 teams that are in the same conference, they're going to play. I don't care if they played last week. I don't care if they played last month. I don't care how many times. I don't care if they played twice, if they played in the regular season and now they're playing again. I don't give a damn how many times they played. They're going to match up, and the other side's going to match up. And that's just what's going to happen.
It's an interesting idea, and I don't think you're necessarily wrong. It gives you a whole other week to just a whole different storyline, right?
Well, and it's not just a different storyline. The reason – hang on, I'm about to call. The reason you're able to say this is going to be a different game is because from the SEC title game, from the end of the regular season to the SEC title game, you get 1 week bye, right?
Yeah.
They take a week off and they play the championship game, correct?
Well, I mean, yeah, you're talking about from the playoff to the national title?
No. The SEC title game is played literally the week after. The regular season
there's no bye week. There's no off week. It's just
that's it.
Regular season.
This game is going to be played a month later. So I don't care that those teams just played. We still got 3 weeks that are going to go by before they play again.
Yeah. No. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But I don't think that. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with the way that it's happened. Like, if Michigan and Cincinnati deserved... Bullshit. 90% of the people, absolutely... You're an Alabama fan, Gary. 90% of the people that have watched this sport and love this sport and watched what just happened, 100% of them all realize they just wasted their New Year's Eve. Okay? That's I don't think anybody
bullshit.
feels like they wasted their New Year's.
If you would have given them... Oh, fuck. Gary, Jesus Christ. Are you kidding me? Are you trying to sell me on this shit?
Who watched that game past the second quarter? I mean,
but okay, now that's a problem then. A, all the people that were there, and B, all the people that have to cover this thing.
Okay, so
you're justifying the fact that the game was a snooze job. Now that's the reason that it's okay. Oh, we didn't ruin their New Year's Eve because nobody watched it after the second quarter. So everyone just turned it off and went and did something else. So that's great for the sport.
This gets back to is it most deserving or is it the best teams?
No, but once you get the 4, who gives a shit what order they're in? I want the best matchups. I want the best games.
Okay.
All 4 got a chance. Listen, they all got to go 2-0 to win the title. Okay?
True.
That's it. Once you get into this, I don't give a shit anymore. All right? I just want you to manipulate it to where I get 3 good games. And if I get 2, if the option is I get 1 great game at the end, but I got to go through 2 shitty games, or I can get 2 great games and I got to get a shitty game at the back end, give me the 2 great games and the 1 shitty game.
Okay, I can see where you're coming from.
We have shitty national championship games all the time.
Oh,
you're shitty Super Bowls all the time.
You do have a very, very good point there. Yeah, it's something to look at. I look at this. I don't think the playoff is broken. I think what you get from Alabama, Georgia being in the national title game is a much quicker everybody come back to the table and let's talk about this playoff expansion, right?
Well, what's stupid is the people that are fighting the playoff expansion are the people that would benefit from the playoff expansion, which tells me there's too much bloody corruption going on in these damn bowl games.
Yeah, I think you might be on something. When people are
voting against their own interest, they're doing that because they're being paid to vote against their own interest. All right? That's true with your local politicians, your national politicians, people that run this stupid-ass sport, or anything else in the world, by the way.
Yeah, I think you might be on something with that.
When you're voting against your own interest, it's because someone's paying you to do so. That needs to roll up a big-ass red flag.
Yes. And we have no centralized authority for college football. Everybody does their own thing. The issue that we have for the playoff, which is why it took forever to get to a 14 playoff anyway, is because it took an act of Congress to be able to, and what we got was Alabama LSU in 2011, and that's what finally jumped it over, right? So we did get Alabama and Georgia, that was not a rematch, but now you have another national title rematch for the first time in a decade, and it just so happens to be 2 SEC teams again. We'll see what happens from there. I do think that something like this, where these 2 teams, the one conference, gets celebrated basically for the entire week, and everybody has to listen to it, and then they'll come back to the table again in January, and they'll say,
not just everybody has to listen to it, everybody else doesn't even get a voice.
Yeah.
Like they don't even get a say. Like if you run a sports talk show that talks major college football in the Midwest, what are you doing today? What are you doing tomorrow? What are you doing the rest of this week? Are you just taking a vacation?
I think some people will.
How do you face your viewers? How do you face the people that are your fans that follow what you do?
It's
if you're in the
very
big,
difficult,
and we're talking to the ACC, we're talking to the Big Ten, and I'm talking to the Big 12 because those fan bases aren't on the West Coast, and those fan bases aren't in the Northeast, but they are in the South, and they are in the Midwest. Yeah. They absolutely are. They care about this sport. They care a lot about this damn sport, and they're being completely left out of the conversation.
Yes.
And if you think I'm being rude to the people out west, then show me your fan base. Show me your pride.
Now, but this is what I'm saying is that the expansion needs to happen, not because we're going to get a bunch of better games, et cetera, but because it includes everybody. Much more so.
We'll get a bunch of better games.
I think so as well.
Do you know how amazing the first round of the playoffs will be? And do you know how because right now we've got two great teams. Well, out of those 12, let's say those 2 teams win all of the games that they play and they end up matching up and beating each other anyway. Okay, that's fine. But that means all of the rest of the games, the separation between 3 and 16 in this country right now is nothing. Absolutely nothing. You 100% could get an upset on any of those games.
Yes, absolutely. Like I think that it would absolutely do wonders.
But a game that involved Georgia or Alabama would be amazing to watch. All of them.
And you at least get different portions of the country that get maybe somewhat invested in the stories of the teams that do win, even if it's not their team. right?
Yes.
It's the same thing with the NFL.
Yes.
So and that's why the Super Bowl is such a big draw every freaking year. One, because the brand itself is already huge, but two, people get invested in the storylines all the way through the playoffs.
Everybody got to participate.
Yes, exactly.
It was a tournament that you were actually at least a part of.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. All right, let's run through, I'm not going to say rapid fire, but let's recap the rest of these New Year's Day bowl games just to get an idea of what exactly went down. The Outback Bowl, Arkansas wins 24-10 over Penn State. Post-game win expectancy, Arkansas 96%. Somehow this season Penn State went 7-6, and it just feels like they were a better team than that. The circumstances around this season for Penn State were weird, just really weird. You look at the stats on this one, 58 carries for 361 yards rushing for Arkansas in this game. The defensive opt-outs for the Nittany Lions was the name of the game. There was no specific play that shifted this game or anything like that. It was close early, but Arkansas just continued to run the ball. They were 14 out of 19 passing for 90 yards. Did have one interception. This was just the guys that were left over for Arkansas. I'm not going to say that they wanted it more, but the guys that were actually playing for the Razorbacks were better than who was actually playing for Penn State. We did get to see some new faces for Penn State. Sean Clifford was 14 out of 32 passing for 195 yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 picks. The Washington kid for Penn State, 7 receptions for 98 yards. He was awesome. The Lambert Smith kid was awesome. 3 catches for 74 yards and a touchdown. It was fun to see some new, and really this is what ESPN should be doing anyway. Rather than bitching about all the opt-outs, hype up some of these guys that we haven't gotten to see. Talk about the guys that we will see as opposed to complaining about guys that are opting out of bowl games. It's just ridiculous. So did you get eyes on this one?
Yeah, I watched every one of these games. I was at home sick and I didn't have anything else to do. Listen, Penn State's not the only one. The best player on both of these teams is Burks, and he didn't play.
Yeah, he didn't play.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. That might be the best receiver in the country, and he was out. So let's not act like Penn State's the only one that had opt-out.
No, and then Arkansas's defensive lineman, Trey Williams, at DUI, and then decided to opt out for the NFL, et cetera. So he's a big part of what they do on defense. And Barry Odom was still able to get some
good game. Arkansas did what a lot of Big Ten teams struggle to do. They ran the football on Penn State. They ran the football kind of down their throat.
What's kind of funny? What Arkansas did to them is exactly what Illinois did with Brett Bielema. So the last two, last 2 stops for Brett Bielema, both happened to handle Penn State in the trenches, whatever that may mean. But yeah, it was a good game. I'm not going to say it was over with early, but that third quarter for Arkansas, where they scored 17 points and just gave up nothing to Penn State, that kind of just sealed the deal because you knew there was no way.
Arkansas's a good team. Arkansas's a fun team. KJ's a really fun player. And this game was crazy as hell early on, by the way. The first 6 possessions were all turnovers.
It was sicko mode.
It was like both teams drove down the field and then turned the ball over in the red zone 4 times in a row, just back to back to back to back. It's like, what in the hell is going on?
SEC StatCat on Twitter and on his website and whatnot. But he goes back through all of these different stats for these SEC teams, and Arkansas is only 1 of 5 successful plays when they do a double pass, which is just. Why do you keep running?
They're going to keep doing it.
Oh yeah, Kendall Briles loves that kind of stuff, man. Loves it. So I don't blame him for doing it. It was fun, but it was definitely crazy early. So it was 10-7 at the half, and Arkansas had just a massive, massive third quarter. So cheers to him for that. Sean Clifford didn't look great in this game, but he was about the only thing they had. 11 carries for him, 47 yards rushing. He was their leading rusher and, of course, leading passer. He went out for a little bit with an injury, but just could not get that done. Next up, the Citrus Bowl, and, Kentucky 20, Iowa 17. There were a lot of people This line just continued to grow and grow and grow. I think it was Kentucky by 2 early, and then it went to 2.5, up to 3, et cetera. It got up to 4 at one point, and then it started coming back down because early on New Year's Day morning, it was revealed that Kentucky was going to be out or without a ton of guys due to COVID. Right? They had a bunch of guys that tested positive. Even the Kentucky Sports Radio guys couldn't make the trip down because they all tested positive beforehand. And so you didn't really know exactly who was going to play for the Wildcats, et cetera. But because most of them were on defense, you really weren't that scared of Iowa because their offense is just putrid. And they were still pretty really bad. They had some fun plays. They gained 384 yards on offense and still were only able to score 17 points in this ballgame. Just abnormally ridiculous. Post-game win expectancy, by the way, 76% for Kentucky. Another 10-win season for Mark Stoops. We can talk about all kind of stuff. But
this was a fun game at the end. When Iowa was up, it was so funny. I forgot who was calling this game, but I remember Kentucky finally scored, and it was like 1:43 left or whatever, and it was like a lot of time left on the clock for Iowa, and I just laughed my ass off. I was like, dude, there could be 13 minutes left on the clock. Iowa ain't scoring in 2 and like, are you insane? I know football. I know that like in any game in the world, 1:43, other teams got all their timeouts. That's a lifetime of clock. No, not for Iowa.
Not with Iowa.
Not for Iowa, baby. This is a different sport. I know it's still football, but is it really football?
It's old man football is what it is. It's crazy.
When he said first when Kentucky scored, I thought, ball game, this thing's over with. I'm going back to the
Oklahoma State Notre Dame
game. Yeah. And so I flipped back over to that. But before I hit that little previous button, I heard him say, plenty of time left on the clock, and I stopped and I looked at the clock and I was like, this guy has not watched. And here's what sucks about this, okay? Here's what sucks about ESPN having all these games and nobody else having any of them. All these announcers have never watched a single game. Now, they've watched a lot of football and they know a lot of football. They've watched 0 Iowa football games. For you to say that, you've never watched an Iowa game all year.
Yeah. Oh, because they work their games.
Their conferences. And Iowa's not on ESPN ever.
Yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
And if they are, it's because they're in a big game, and so it's the big boys that get them, but it's not this crew. And this is the problem.
Yeah.
These guys, you get one damn bowl game this week. You can't go watch it. You can't watch film. And don't tell me these guys watched film. They didn't. Or else you would have said that.
Sam Laporta is the tight end for Iowa that caught 7 passes for 122 yards. He did have 1 touchdown, 36. Just another tight end out of Iowa. They have them every year, it feels like. But this kid, I believe, is going to be back next year. You know, a lot of fun. Gavin Williams is the running back that had 16 carries for 98 yards. So things do look good for them going forward.
No, they're going to be the same that they are. I mean, here's the thing. Anybody they're losing, they're replacing them with somebody that looks exactly like them.
Because they develop their guys. Like, they really do. They develop their guys. They
don't start a lot of underclassmen. Yeah. They don't have a lot of freshmen and sophomores playing a whole lot because they're getting them to look like the upperclassmen that are playing now.
Yes.
So that when it's their turn, they play exactly like those guys play.
Exactly. This is what Kirk Ferentz does, 100%. On the Kentucky side, Will Levis, 17 out of 28 passing, 233 yards, 1 touchdown. He did have 1 pick. Chris Rodriguez did what he usually does, 20 carries, 107 yards, 1 touchdown. And then Wan'Dale Robinson, 10 receptions for 170 yards, and was a man amongst boys. He
surprised me because Iowa's secondary is really good.
They did. Iowa had really some guys out. So
I know they did, but I was still surprised that he was able to dominate the way he did.
Yeah,
out there.
No, he was awesome. The Fiesta Bowl with Oklahoma State and Notre Dame. This was the early one, the early New Year's Six game. Oklahoma State wins 37-35 over the Irish. Oklahoma State post-game win expectancy was 75%. I think the play that sealed the game and gave Oklahoma State life was the 4th and 1 on Notre Dame's own 39 early in the game. They were up 14-0 already, and they were handling business. And Marcus Freeman punted the ball back. And you can go at any number of different things here. You can say, well, our defense was able to handle them, so we thought we could stop them again. But Oklahoma State came right down the field. You gave them an opportunity that you didn't have to. And, again, these early plays are the ones that I feel like really changed the momentum in a ball game. And, yeah, Notre Dame went up 28-7 or whatever it was, like second quarter, I guess. Maybe early third. I can't remember exactly when. But that right there is what gave Oklahoma State a shot in the arm. Even though they allowed more points on the back end, they still realized, oh, we can move the football on them. Like, you go down 21-0, I don't know that you get that giant comeback. Like, that just seemed like the one spot in the game that gave Oklahoma State a chance to win it, and it was early. What were your thoughts on this one?
I thought Notre Dame looked really good early, and this is the difference between a team with a very, very young and inexperienced coaching staff and a team on the other side of the ball with a very experienced coaching staff that has seen everything. And it's one of those, weather the storm, Notre Dame's going to come out playing just with a complete unbelievable amount of passion and fire because they love Marcus and they're so excited for him, and they did. I told you guys, I don't think Oklahoma State's going to score today. I just don't. In the first, quarter and a half, I felt pretty good about that. And it's just one of those things where Gundy let some of that passion get out and let's get into playing football. Okay. Once the adrenaline dies down and we're all just playing football, now we're back in this game. And yes, we're behind, but we can make up for that. We're okay. There's enough time left in the clock and we can go about this. I thought it was a difference in experience level for a head coach that's been doing it for decades and one that's been doing it for 5 minutes.
Spencer Sanders surprised me quite a bit in this one. 34 out of 51 passing, 371 yards, 4 touchdowns. He ran the ball 17 times for 125 yards in this. Jalen Warren did play 19 carries, 82 yards, but man, I was shocked at how efficient Spencer Sanders was in this game. On the other side, without Kyron Williams, I thought that the Notre Dame stable of backs was still going to be somewhat decent, right? But they came out with a completely different game plan, and they only ran the ball 21 times for 42 yards. Now, a part of that, it's probably because they only ran for 42 yards, right? They were not able to get a lot done establishing the run. Jack Cohn, 38 out of 68 for 509 yards, 5 touchdowns, and 1 pick. A Notre Dame quarterback throwing for 500, screw that. A Jack Cohn quarterback throwing for 500 yards is insane to me.
Yeah.
Like, this may be what we're going to see from Notre Dame going forward, and it kind of lets you see what the handcuffs were like on Tommy Rees while Brian Kelly was there. I think Marcus Freeman straight up said, you know what, you call the offense, I'm going to call the defense, and then we'll go from there.
But at some point in time, there's a reason those handcuffs are there.
Yes.
Right? Like, this offense did not look good. This offense did not look strong. This offense did not look like they had a plan. Like, this is why you can't just say somebody is a great OC, and so they're just going to always be a great OC. When the head coach is the architect of what you do, he knows how to fix the problems. He knows everybody else just looks at a house and sees that it's pretty. But he understands there's a foundation on that back right corner that where the ground is a little soft and we're a little weak. And so we had to go a little bit deeper and we had to bring in some bedrock and we had to do some things differently to stabilize that back corner. But nobody else knows that. Nobody else sees that because they just see the OC and they just see the play calls and they just see the practices and they don't understand the architecture that goes into putting together a game plan for a team. All right. He just went out there and he called a bunch of plays. Okay.
Yeah.
And I think he called a bunch of plays for guys that didn't fit their skill sets. And that doesn't mean his offense wouldn't have been great. All right. Had he had Matt Corral and Burks and some different talent on that offense, those play calls could have been awesome. They could have beat the hell out of Oklahoma State. But he doesn't. This is a coaching staff that I want to see them be good. I want them to see them succeed. But they are very, very young. And at some point in time, it would do Freeman a lot of good to bring in some old veteran who knows how to build these things as a coach.
Yeah, because they, again, like you said, very, very young. They've got experience, but I don't know that they've got experience being in this position, right? Tommy Rees has never had the handcuffs off. Marcus Freeman has never been in the head
He's
chair.
never had to build anything from himself.
Yeah, exactly. He
had an architect to build it for him.
The wide receiver for Notre Dame that I think we're going to see a lot of going forward, Lorenzo Styles, the freshman, 8 receptions for 136 yards and 1 touchdown. I mean, he was awesome. He was targeted 10 times and caught 8 of them. Mayer, like the tight end, he was awesome. I mean, we saw some fun things out of these two teams. It was a fun game, and I mean,
at some point in time, Notre Dame struggled to score.
Yes.
There's a part of the game where in the fourth quarter, the second half, basically the entire second half, they got 1 touchdown at some point, either late in the third quarter, sometime fourth quarter, whatever. But that's it.
Yeah, it was the fourth quarter. So after they went down,
they got 28 points.
Yeah, 37 to 28. Yeah.
They had 28 points in the first half, and it all seemed great. And all Gundy did was, like I said, weather that storm, took that whipping, go into the locker room. This is what they got. I can stop that. We can fix that.
Well, Jim Knowles was still calling the defense before he goes to Ohio State, which wily old veteran move there, because they open up with Notre Dame at Ohio State next year. You get the game plan for them twice. Why not? Like, smart move. But Jim Knowles has done this multiple times this year. You can score on them early, but you ain't scoring after the half. Like they will adjust and they will figure you out, and that's exactly what they did in Notre Dame here. Let's knock out these last two right quick. The Rose Bowl, and you want to talk about a fun ball game? Ohio State 48, Utah 45. Jackson Smith and Jigba 15 receptions, 347 yards, 3 touchdowns. Let me read that again a little more slowly. 347 yards receiving in this ball game on 15 receptions. Just ridiculous. The post-game win expectancy was Ohio State 69%. Cam Rising went out in the fourth quarter with a concussion. Bryson Barnes almost became the hero for Utah, but Ohio State went right down the field. How weird of a call at the end of the game for Ryan Day to call a timeout with 12 seconds left. They've got 2nd and 1 on the 2-yard line and come out and kick the field goal. Like that, if you were going to call the timeout and kick the field goal, why would you not just let the clock run down? It was really strange. Like I could not figure that out to save my life. Did you see anything that was going on there?
No, I just think some of these coaches aren't really good with end of game scenarios and situations with the clock.
I almost wonder, because they had the turnover second quarter, I guess it was, where the ball got hit from behind and like knocked out of the back of the end zone. Maybe he decided he didn't want to risk a turnover, but I mean, I didn't understand it. I was very thankful for it, I will tell you that, because I had a bet on Utah +7, and then after the opt-outs, I had a Utah +4.5. I did have a Utah money line. I did not hit that, but after that first half, I hit the Ohio State team total over 21 in the second half. And
no, I just think some coaches are really bad at some of these end of game situations. It didn't cost him the game. I think he felt safe that it wasn't going to cost him the game. But in another situation, it could have.
Yeah, no, it absolutely could have.
Incredibly fun game. When Ohio State was missing every receiver known to man. Like I thought, man, Ohio State doesn't want to be here. Utah absolutely wants to be here. I think Utah's going to win this game flat out. Utah started this game off scoring over and over and over again. I thought, man, Ohio State's defense is just hot garbage because Utah's offense ain't looked this good ever in the history of Utah football. They've never looked this good. And Ohio State kept going blow for blow with them. And I just thought, holy shit, this is what this game's going to be. And then we got to the fourth quarter. Then we got to the end, and we stopped having long drives that ended in touchdowns. And we just had like 2 plays. Boom. Kickoff return. Boom. Like, oh, shit, we're just doing this. We're just scoring 20-something points in like a minute and a half.
It was awesome. Like this was a fun ball game.
Yes,
and
it was unbelievable.
Now I don't know how good of a game it would have been because everybody talked about if you expand the playoffs, this would have been one of the playoff games. Number 6 against number 11, and blah 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 blah. You toss Garrett Wilson out there, you toss Chris Olave out there, you put in
hang on now, whoa.
Haskell.
None of those defensive guys were showing up to stop Utah though.
Well, that's what I'm saying. There's Haskell, Garrett, and those guys.
I don't know that we get a worse game because Ohio State can't score much more than they scored already.
They had a
unless
fumble.
One of these teams are going to bring back a bunch of defensive players, we're not getting a whole lot different game. We're just getting different dudes scoring touchdowns.
Let's see. There were only 3 drives. Take that back. There were 5 drives that Ohio State did not score on. Right?
I don't think the game changes at all. I just think different guys are scoring touchdowns.
Maybe
because
so.
Utah scored too much down points. And like I said, it would have been a great game. It would have been a playoff game.
Yes.
It would have mattered. It would have been unbelievable.
It was a lot of fun.
The difference is the game would have been played in Ohio State. That's where the difference would have been.
The post-game win expectancy here, Ohio State 69%. CJ Stroud, 37-46 passing, 573 yards, 6 touchdowns, 1 pick in the game. It was awesome. Like they didn't really have to run the ball much, but they ran 20 times for 110 yards. Travion Henderson was awesome. 17 carries, 83 yards. This was fun. Like the future is still bright for Ohio State. It will continue to be so. They lost those wide receivers, and they still had 5-star after 5-star. They got the best wide receiver room in the country. Like it did not hurt them at all. The Sugar Bowl. Let's close out with that one. Baylor wins 21-7 over Ole Miss, and you want to talk about frustrating for a game to like you're psyched about it because, all right, we just got the Rose Bowl, and it was 48-45, last second, all this kind of mess, and you've got Lane Kiffin, and Matt Corral comes out, and then nobody scores, and Matt Corral gets hurt early, and it was, the game was fun for, I guess, defensive-minded people, I guess, but, it was kind of a dud. It was just, Baylor was not great. Like, Jerry Bohannon still had an injury, but he passed for 40 yards, I believe it was.
Yeah, I know it was 50 yards, less than 50 yards.
Yeah, Bohannon 7 of 17 for 40 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1
if they
pick.
kept stats right, and they took his sacks away, he might be less than 20 yards.
Let's see, sacks. No, Ole Miss didn't have any sacks. So
they didn't have any sacks.
Had 0. Baylor had 10 sacks in this ball game.
Okay, I know he got tackled behind the line of scrimmage a couple times, but I guess those are all draws. They just assumed they were run plays or they were out of the pocket.
They were all out of the pocket.
Call them off because I know that he got tackled behind the line of scrimmage.
Let's see, Jerry Bohannon 7 rushing attempts for 23 yards. So, yeah, tackle for loss. Ole Miss had 1 for -1 yards.
No, it might be that far.
So I think that was the biggest thing. Ole Miss could not get a push on them. Abram Smith was awesome, like he has been all season. 25 carries, 172 yards. He was the offense.
Stud.
Basically all night. Monera Baldwin, the 1 rushing touchdown for 48 yards there. Luke Altmaier, I think, is going to be pretty good eventually. I don't think he was ready for this ball game.
Well,
it did not look at all like he was ready to go against that.
Hang on now. Whoa, I don't know about that. I think he played well.
He did play pretty well.
I think this is a really good defense, by the way.
It absolutely. Kiffin said afterwards, he said, Dave Aranda outcoached me, but he's done that to a lot of people. So
yep. No, I told several people, I think this is going to be a low-scoring game because they were all over for this game. I was like, you need to be real careful. First off, Baylor struggles to score the football. Secondly, I think Dave Aranda is the best defensive mind in football right now. In college football, I do. You give him a month to prepare, and I know that it's impossible to say what the game would have looked like had Corral not gone down. But I'm just telling you, I don't think it would have been a whole lot different. I think Altman made some big plays. I think, he threw a pretty deep ball and guys were getting open, and that's fine. But everything was a struggle. Everything is a fight. Those DBs and those linebackers play so disciplined, and they play so just perfect football. They're not talent-wise better than anybody out there. Ole Miss talent-wise out-talents Baylor, and I don't think it's close. Offense to defense. Yeah. I just think those guys are just coached perfectly. They're just coached perfectly.
Got a lot of upperclassmen, but I will tell you this: there are a lot of them that will be back next year.
Yep.
Now they will miss Terrell Bernard, senior linebacker. He had 17 tackles in this game. He had
somebody
2
else
sacks.
will take that role. Somebody else will step it up.
Oh, yeah.
That's what Aranda's going to do that.
I mean, it was such a weird. It was such a different kind of heart racing game, right? Where every play matters, but it's not just racing up and down the field the way it was with Ohio State and Utah. This was like, okay, if anybody breaks a play open, that could be the one that wins this thing, and that's exactly what happened.
That's what I told everybody though. I had a couple of guys in the text. I had a couple of Mississippi State fans that really hate Ole Miss, and they're like, "Come on, man, Ole Miss can't win this game when it was 7-7." And I said, "Just don't." I'm telling you, just hang tight, tight with me. Ole Miss ain't gonna be able to drive on this team. Their only opportunity to score is to bust a play. Okay, I just don't think that's happening a lot. All right, and eventually the dam will break. And Ole Miss held up a lot longer than I even thought they would. But coming to the fourth quarter, the dam broke. They got 2 touchdowns, and it was it.
Yeah. No,
really, they just needed the one.
3 interceptions for Ole Miss, 1 on the opening drive, and it led to no points because Baylor couldn't do anything with it. No. The first touchdown interception was the touchdown. The second that kid tipped the football, the second that ball got tipped, I sent a text to all you guys. He gone. No, Matt. No. I know what you're talking about, but Corral threw one early.
Yes, and that was the touchdown.
No,
the first interception Corral threw, I thought was the one that went to the house.
No, that was in the second quarter. That was the first Altmaier interception.
Oh, Corral was out by then.
Yeah, Corral was already out at that point.
I just remember when that guy tipped the football. As soon as the ball got tipped, I said, this kid catches his ball, he's gone.
Yeah.
Because he's the fastest dude on the field, and it's not close. And then nobody else is close to him. That's Ole Miss wide receivers out there. Don't matter. Yeah. Don't matter. I've watched too much Baylor football. Nobody's catching that dude.
No, you're 100% right. Best season in Baylor history?
Yes. Well, yeah. I mean, obviously, they got 12 wins.
Yeah, and won a Sugar Bowl.
You got a better season? They've never won 12 games. They've never won a Sugar Bowl. Right?
Had a Baylor fan send me some information. So the last time Baylor won the Sugar Bowl, they had what I think the New York Times and the Washington Post and whatever called the happiest year of all time, and it was 1957. So they won the Sugar Bowl January 1st, 1957. They didn't play in it again until January 1st of 2020. And they lost it to Georgia. And then, of course, they lose Matt Rule, and we get COVID, and we get all this other stuff that had, from 2020 through 2021 was not exactly the best of times. But now
they won 2 games last year.
But now I'm not just talking about Baylor. I'm just talking about period for the country. Now I'm saying Baylor won the Sugar Bowl on January 1st, 2022. Is it a sign of things to come for the world now that Baylor has won a Sugar Bowl again?
Let's hope so.
Here's hoping. All right, let's go ahead and get out of here. I didn't even do the recap. Let me go on and tell everybody, go to winningcureseverything.com. BetUS brings you the show each and every time out. BetUS.com, where the game begins. There are links in the description for all of this stuff. If you haven't already, subscribe to the podcast. Do us a favor. Knock that thing out. We had a highly successful month of December. We are looking to continue that going forward. We will be back on Wednesday with all of our NFL stuff. Same as usual. Now that the holidays are over, we should be back in a pretty regular routine. So we do have one more week of NFL football before we jump into the playoffs there. So we will be giving out picks, all that good stuff. But go to BetUS. Go to the BetUS College Football Show. Go and check that one out. Subscribe, all that good stuff. And go to winningcureseverything.com. Subscribe where you need to subscribe, etc. Chris, is there anything you want to hit on before we jet? You're muted.
That's because I was coughing earlier. Sorry. No, brother, that's it.
Good. All right. We appreciate all of you guys for listening. Take care of yourself. Take care of each other. And hopefully, all your tickets cash this week. Thanks for checking out Winning Cures Everything. If you want to keep up with us, hit subscribe on YouTube or your favorite podcast app. Visit the website at winningcureseverything.com, or you can like us on Facebook or follow us at Winning Cures, at Gary WCE, or at Chris B. Giannini on Twitter. Share out the show, leave a nice review, and make sure to